What is up, everyone, and welcome to another issue of Sibling Rival-Read, the comic book club show hosted by yours truly. It's Ben Pie and my wonderful, amazing sister right down there.
Anna dash Kin. Anakin, get it? Get it?
Nice.
Woohoo!
I know it's been a bit since there's been a new episode, and this is the first new episode going live on our exclusively Sibling Rival-Read YouTube channel. So make sure if you're,
Fancy.
I know. Did you see all the cool art that I had made up for it? Let's just go to it really quickly here, because I'm very happy with how it came out. We're just gonna go right here. How do I look at my channel? My channel. Boom. Yeah. Looks pretty cool, if I do say so myself. So yeah, if you're listening to the podcast, I would really appreciate it if you went, and there will be, you can go to itsbenpie.com/comic book club. And the link for the channel will be right there for you to see. So yeah, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, as it does really help make sure that more people can see this. And the more people that get to see this, the more likely that Anna and I will be able to really continue devoting time to it. I do have a few ideas for other content to come to the channel. It's just a matter of getting it on there. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. This week's issue was my pick. My pick, and it was a Wolverine comic.
That's why you picked it.
It is why I picked it. I was really excited about a Wolverine comic, and because I don't think I've ever. No, I know that I have never read anything specifically Wolverine. Like I've read like Days of Future Past. Like I've read comics where he is the main character, but it's been
an X-Men overall or an Avengers overall type of a story arc.
Yep,
I get that. Kind of like House of M. He was a headlining character.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. And he's an awesome character, or especially an intriguing character. A lot of cool mystery behind him, and I had heard nothing but really good things about this story done by Chris Claremont and the art by Frank Miller. So that's kind of why I chose it, and the book itself kind of brings out some of the Japanese backstory of Wolverine, and I love Japan. And if you ever watched the old '90s X-Men animated show. Not X-Men Evolutions, not Wolverine and the X-Men, but the OG.
All good.
Yeah, they're all good. But like the OG X-Men animated series, where it was campy as all hell, but it was highly enjoyable. There was a whole arc of Logan going to Japan.
I feel like the 90s one really touched on a lot more of the comic book elements.
Absolutely. And it was one of my favorite story arcs in the animated series. So I was really, really interested in going back and reading this arc by Claremont Miller. So that was why I chose it. And you kind of find out some super interesting stuff about him. One of his first loves, Mariko, and a little glimpse into his backstory as a secret agent, and just getting the classic Wolverine intertwined with all of that. So yeah, that was why I chose it. Um, so Anna, tell me what some of your thoughts were.
Such mixed feelings because it's not, and not mixed feelings as like it was bad and by any means, because it wasn't. Um, I It was very classic comic book. I thought that the plot was well written. It didn't get boring. It had a good pace to it. It was a great start for anybody interested in X-Men overall or Wolverine specific, just because Wolverine is such an iconic X-Men character that anything you start with that has him as the frontliner is going to be a great segue into the rest of the team. Um, so there was that. It had
Yeah.
a very assassins heavy kind of plot line, which was fun.
Hmm. A lot, and I think this is where kind of like the Frank Miller influence comes out a bit. It was they were not afraid to be violent in this one,
But
and
it wasn't like gory. Oh my
gratuitous.
god, I
Yeah.
can't believe I'm looking at this. And it had very classic comic book art, which I think
Hmm.
also lent itself to not being oh so gory.
Right.
Um
Oh,
yeah, I was really sad to see his friend, his secret agent friend die,
I
because
know
I
Asana.
think he was the most interesting other character
Uh
to
huh.
me.
I'm curious
So
if there's an arc out there that kind of goes back to Wolverine working with Asana, because I would go back and read that just to kind of get an idea of that storyline, because
mhm.
his death hits Wolverine really hard. So it's
As
like
being his oldest friend, which is also
yeah, so it's like that there's a lot there. Um, but I enjoyed this one in it had a lot of good like storytelling things to it. Like it had a really good overarching story throughout the thing,
mhm.
and it had really good character development as a whole. I thought you kind of have him going there for one reason that's like super selfish, and kind of ruining it, and then going down to hit rock bottom, and then his friend dying, and then him really like thinking, well, what the hell, I need to be doing. I need to fix this.
Yeah, I
And
felt like this was almost as close to a slice of life comic for Wolverine as you're gonna get.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and it had that like, oh my gosh, this thing that I've been focusing on has blinded me to the fact that, oh, what I've been focusing on is what I need to focus on. I'm just focusing on the wrong aspect of it.
Hmm.
And I liked the little bits of Japanese culture that were brought into it as well. Um, like all of the talk of honor and things like that. I mean, I think it was a little like heavy stereotypical. Um, but I mean, when was this book written? I know, yeah, I was gonna say 2010 because that's when this.
It was republished.
Mhm. Um, the other thing that I really liked about this book is it was short.
It was short, and I mean, I don't think that you could have lengthened this story out any
No,
more
I don't think
well.
so either. Like, yeah, no, I don't think so either. Um, so this book originally came out in 1982. Is that
Dig
accurate?
it,
Yeah.
dig it.
That I feel kind of fits with the art style and all of that, so makes sense to me.
Mhm.
Um, But yeah, so I think like especially for people newly getting into the comic books as a whole, I thought it was really really a good like, hey, start here kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and it was short enough. There was still a good amount of storytelling in it, and a good amount of like again character development and all of that. That I don't think like you said, I don't think the story missed out on it being short. I don't think it could have been lengthened. Um, and yeah, I think this is the pinnacle of like what an entry level comic should kind of look like, in my opinion. It introduces you to a character, gives you some backstory, um, while telling a story that you don't know right off the bat. Like everyone knows that Spider-Man was bit by a radioactive spider. Everyone knows that Captain America had a super soldier serum. Everyone
Serum.
knows that Batman's parents died and he became a vigilante because of that. Things like that. This is yes. Everyone knows that Wolverine is. I mean, everyone knows that he's really good at
He's
what he does, and what he does is not very nice.
and
Um,
everybody also knows that he was an experimented on mutant. So
right.
I mean, so I get what you're saying with that. I just don't necessarily think that how it was set up is the same way because I mean, the superhero starting point for him would have been the experimenting on, which would have been the equivalent of the super serum. This was very much just an introduction to the person, not necessarily the hero. So like
That's fair. Well, with
I will
Wolverine, it's
say,
more. I would say it's closer to anti-hero for Wolverine. He kind of walks that
yeah.
line.
Well, it kind of stinks, what else are you going to do with razors for hands? Like,
It's accurate.
you can't really do much other than maim.
Hmm.
Um, so I will say, like, as much as I think that this was a great starting point, I don't necessarily know where you would go from here for modern comics.
I don't either, but I think
So, I
it's.
mean,
I think it's a good like dipping your foot in the water of like what should I expect from Wolverine? What is a good starting point, and what can I compare what I read in the future to? And I think this is a good litmus test, essentially. Like this is you stick a litmus paper on this, it's gonna change and say, yeah, this is good. Um, and you can kind of go off of Wolverine comics of how does it compare to this book? Um, because I feel like this is going to be like that perfect middle of the road um, entry point. Because again, you still get a little bit of hearing about his backstory, giving a little bit of mystery to it still with characters like Asana, um, and uh, again the character growth to be like, okay, this is where you kind of see the actual hero of Wolverine come out when it came to like that last issue in it, because this is a 4-issue arc.
mhm.
That's more what I'm talking about. But I do agree. It's like where you don't really know where to go from here.
Other than in this particular run,
Right. Absolutely.
especially since, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen any of the other characters reappear.
I think I swear Mariko has come up again, but I'm
I'm
not
like
a
trying to remember because I haven't read.
because I think isn't Mariko. Am I
I don't.
crazy? Is Mariko not Lady Deathstrike? Scarlet Samurai. She's the Scarlet Samurai. I want to read more of this. It comes back in Old Man Logan. We should read some Old Man Logan. Oh. Anyways, he dies and comes back to life. Because
As
I
everybody
think,
does.
yeah, her brother is the Silver Samurai. So
Okay.
Mariko is the one that we see in the animated series because he fights the Silver Samurai in the animated series. You remember that?
Yeah, but I was more so. I don't remember seeing her come back up in comics, which,
Gotcha.
in my I mostly focused on comics centering around my favorite characters.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, it's like I've never really read more Wolverine, but this is like I'm interested in pulling up Wikipedia and looking at like, okay, I need to know more about this Mariko character because obviously this character has an impact on Logan's life. So tell me more, tell me more. Like, does she have a car?
I hate that. Have blah, blah, blah. I didn't watch this movie because I didn't watch the movie. But did you watch the Wolverine Origins movies
The
where he's
Wolverine,
in Japan?
the Wolverine Origins movies.
Yeah, like
You
the
mean like
second movie after the terrible, terrible one
I actually
with.
didn't watch the second one.
I didn't watch the second one either. I watched the first one, which was bad. I watched the
Oh,
third one,
which was
which was
good.
gory.
The old man, like the old man Logan one.
Yeah, but then there was that second one, and that second one was set in Japan.
You're
And I was
right.
gonna ask if she was the love interest in that, and that was centered around. I should have watched that movie before we talked
I
about
know,
this.
right?
I was kind of like banking on you having watched it and me just
Oh
asking you
yeah.
questions about it.
No, I'm sorry. Have you watched? So there's an anime series of Wolverine.
No, I tried watching. There was this one cartoon X-Men series that
Huh.
I was deep diving into all of the old animated, and this one though was like animators took comic book pages and just like redrew them and
Yeah.
had voices over top of them, but
Mm.
their mouths never moved. And
Yep.
I was like, what am I
Yeah,
watching?
that became a really popular thing for a little while. Um,
I didn't like it.
but let's get back to this
Yeah.
story. Let's talk about some of our favorite panels. I will say so. Art wise, it was an old classic comic.
Hmm.
I think this is one that I'll go to when they say, you know, oh, they always draw such, you know, unrealistic images of women in comics. I'm sorry, some of the positions that Wolverine takes and, you know, his physique, incredibly unrealistic visions of men, okay? I know it's not as common, but still. um, but I especially loved um, the the scenes in the last issue. Like those were some of my um, favorite scenes. Like this fight
The
with
very pop
Wolverine.
of colors and
Yeah, and like this oh like it was. I really enjoyed it, especially like this far right column. For those of you in the audio version, it's right after Yukio um, doesn't kill Mariko and says that she's going to help Wolverine take down Shingen, but he declines, and then it gets into the fight with Shingen. There's like a panel that's just it's a tall panel that's all white and has both Shingen and Wolverine in shadow. Um, Wolverine in his like iconic like crouching pose, just like sitting there in shadows, and it looks so badass, and I love it. And just like a lot of the art on these pages were I thought really great. And then the actual fight itself, even though it literally only takes place in 2 pages, um, it it reminded me very much of like Kill Bill, and like the old time kind of like ninja or samurai movies when they're fighting and like just the way they did the lighting and the blood coming off the blades and all of that. It looked. I thought it was really cool. And I love motion in comics, and this was a nice, like, different kind of motion than like when we see Spider-Man or Nightwing or even Batman and things like that. This reminded me of just like, I want to go watch Kill Bill now. Like, I don't know, something about it just gave me big Kill Bill vibes. And I really, really liked it. Oh, I guess it took place over 4 pages. Nice. But even still, like, I just really liked it. And then that final scene where you kind of see him grab Shingen by like the lapel and bring him in, and then it just changes over to Wolverine, like, blood red eyes and the sticked. It's like it doesn't show what happened, but it's like,
the
Shingen
art
dead.
does a good job about suggesting instead of outright gore.
Right. And I think that's really important with a hero like Wolverine. Because I think it's super easy to kind of fall down that trap.
But the more the gore, the less the hero.
Right. Exactly.
I agree, especially with a character like Wolverine, who has
and then I loved
blade knuckles.
Uh-huh. And then I loved the lighting and the scene with Mariko after. Like, just the way the lighting was done was absolutely amazing, especially with like that crosshatch coming in like right on that full profile view of Mariko holding the katana, and telling the story of the blade, and why Wolverine deserves the blade, and then that final panel of just like black and blue Mariko and Wolverine. Like, how short is Mariko? Because Wolverine is short. But
I imagine her Tiffany short, which means nothing to you, but a lot to me. And then you see my favorite characters.
Yep.
On the last page. I will also say that probably with Mariko explaining the story and like why Wolverine deserves the sword was probably one of my favorite art moments, just for showcasing lighting. Otherwise, I felt like everything was well done for the time period. It did exactly what you wanted it to. You could tell what was happening. It helped the story flow. Nothing was like absolutely breathtaking to me. I thought this one was done very well for lighting. My favorite scene overall, as just something that I would have wanted to see either more of or watched it in the movie theater or something like that, would have been the Kabuki theater scene where the assassins were the actors.
You don't have a page number by chance, do you?
No, I didn't write page numbers for this one.
And any time the hand came in and they were fighting them, it just looked great.
But I mean, overall, I don't feel like I can say much about it other than it's well done. It executes lighting and shadow and contrast really well. And that's something that is always good to take away.
Yeah. It was 100% like old school comics.
Yeah, and there's always something though that resonates like really well when it looks screen printed.
Yeah.
Like, there's just a warmth to it when it looks screen printed. And I'm not the biggest Frank Miller fan, which is probably like super terrible to say for huge comic book art fans. And it's not, I don't mind him in this style. It was a newer one that I was reading, and it reminded me a lot of Fathom. and my critiques on Fathom
Uh-huh.
then flowed into the Frank Miller, and it was probably just that one run, but it was not my favorite, and so that's always what I think of when I think of him. But this was fine. I mean, this was exactly what you expect it to be, and it's still great reference material, especially for light study,
Yeah.
which I'm also like focusing really hard on after doing the Lightbox Expo.
Uh-huh.
I know that I need to work really hard on my uh, on lighting
Oh, it
and
was this, right?
digital. Yeah,
I got there. I was
yeah.
looking.
But I don't know if that's necessarily for the art or just for the story about the panels. Like
Mhm.
that would probably have been my favorite scene if this was a movie, or if this particular kind of thing was executed as the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I thought for me, I
Totally.
think the story was just like really. I enjoyed the story a lot. And I feel like the art was pretty like average for this time, and definitely what you would expect of Frank Miller art. But the art made a big impact when the art needed to make a big impact in the story. And I think that's something that's important to kind of look at also, is being able to, it's not like Low where it's like I loved the fact that the art was so distracting. This was a story that I don't think I wanted the art to be distracting because I already know the world.
Mhm.
But the art was great when like and powerful when that's what it needed to do. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
No, it does, and it speaks to I'm probably one of as much as I really love art, I'm probably really hard on comic book art because I view it as what I want it to be for artwork, not
Hmm.
necessarily what I want it to be for a comic book.
Right.
Which is why that I think that Frank Miller isn't necessarily my favorite artist, but he's a staple in comic book art.
Oh, so Anna, the
Yeah.
Wolverine, that second movie,
Yeah.
is based on this book.
I thought so. I literally only remember walking in on like
Oh my god.
Dad one summer or something like that. I made this too small. Um, and it was in Japan, and I was like, "Oh wow, that looks really pretty." And then I saw it was Wolverine movie, and I was like, "Oh, why are you watching this?" After me just remembering the Wolverine Origin movie, and I was like,
That was
"No."
god awful.
I was like, "No." And I remember I watched a stripped copy, like so the
Of
the final
Origins?
scene. Yeah, so the
Yeah.
final scene wasn't even fully animated or like CG'd. So you just
Uh-huh.
have like the random block shapes of things from
Yep.
distance. And I was like, ooh,
And
this does not
people
help.
people would argue that that is what ruined that movie. I mean, it's not what ruined that movie. That movie
Mm-mm.
was awful. But the fact that it came out beforehand, like that, and was so readily available to everyone, really ruined the ability of that movie to make any money whatsoever. Um,
No, and it was so
I'm
sad because
actually,
they introduced good characters, just not well.
I'm actually kind of surprised the Wolverine movie.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as like what I would have expected, didn't do terrible.
Origins
Like
or this
ratings.
one?
The Wolverine, so the second one.
This one.
It
Okay.
has a 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, 61% on Metacritic, and 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
Wow. Well, I mean, you can't really say it did better than you expected because you didn't know you hadn't seen it.
I'm more basing it on how wonderful Wolverine Origins was.
Yeah, but this one happened like I don't want to say substantially later, but it happened more than just oh, we finished this movie, so we're going straight into the Wolverine.
Hmm.
Wasn't there like a 3-year gap?
Uh,
Regardless, we should probably watch that movie just after reading this.
yep, yep. Maybe we'll do like a little one-off on the YouTube channel, just talking about that
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Um,
And I will also say, I want to see a Wolverine comic that is in his time in Japan, especially when he's learning how to use the sword, which I
Katana.
thought was what the Wolverine movie was. I thought that was when he was learning how to be a samurai.
Gotcha.
That's why I wasn't 100% sure, but um done in traditional like ink paintings style would be gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
But again, like that's coming from like, oh, I would love that as an artist, not necessarily the best storytelling method, maybe for a comic book. So,
Yeah. I enjoyed this book. I enjoyed it quite a bit,
mm,
actually. Um, I'm trying to think of like I would have. I mean, I'm kind of a sucker for some of this slightly more modern art style. Um, Not that I
like
dislike
how
like
experimental it gets in modern.
yeah, exactly. Um, it's like everything can look very different. Um, some of the faces looked like very strange to me in general. And I don't know. I'm not an artist. I don't know if it comes down to like drawing the different like ethnicity or anything like that. Um, the faces kind of turned me off every once in a while.
When they
I
looked too alien,
yeah,
essentially like when you zoomed in, and it was mostly on
Yukio.
yeah, it was mostly on her character. None of the others
She
for
had
me.
very sharp, angular features.
Yeah, and very thin, pointy eyebrows, and it was a very alien-esque
Yeah.
vibe.
Hmm.
So,
Can we talk about how freaking badass this Wolverine looks?
where he's standing in the body of the body's
Bodies of the
mound.
hand and it,
Yeah.
like bloody,
It sounds so weird.
bloody, bloody blades, and face full of shadow, and just the yellow eyes coming
Hmm.
through with the blue, that
Hair.
trademark blue hair.
It's
Um,
black hair. It's just blue highlight.
yeah, but you know, I'm
I'm
more
just
trying to
saying,
describe it for
viewers
exactly.
or listeners rather than the viewers. Yeah.
And I loved any time that they did just like solid color, solid color. So like this fight with the hand and Wolverine on the rooftops, like I like that kind of again that kind of play with light.
Yeah, well, the background's on which I mean, of course, since it's in the 80s, makes total sense. Reminds me of what was it, clip paint or just paint
Uh
that
huh.
you used to have at school when you had computer classes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's what it
still
reminds
you
me
can
of.
still use Paint now on computers. It's still the
Is it
same
just as
thing.
dated?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You probably have it on your computer. It comes factory installed on every Windows computer.
I have plenty of drawing apps on my computer. I do not need that.
None like MS Paint though.
Mm. I remember drawing Neopets on MS Paint.
I
But
remember drawing like a little comic strip on MS Paint of me
I
as a
will also
superhero.
say, oh,
Yep.
nobody wants to see Ben in tights.
I
Um,
drew a stick figure. It was nothing beautiful. Come on. Come on, Anna.
I always liked how you drew the owl, and I attribute you to teaching me how to draw that like little circular thumbprint owl thing.
Uh-huh.
Something else that I will say, and this is me being a huge stickler, and also probably just looking at it and comparing it to modern comics.
Mhm.
Throughout the entire thing, if you go back and look at it single page, and then if you go back and look at it with the double page formatting on Comixology, I don't like how some of the 2 pages coincide. And that's me being like super picky with how color schemes go. Like
Uh-huh.
the particular panel that you're on right now did a great job, but then other panels
It
hopscotched between so many different colors that you didn't know if it happened in the same day without reading it, which again, like you read a comic, it's not like it's only the visual elements, but that's just me being a huge stickler.
Yeah, and then you still have to
And
remember that there were full page ads in the
yeah,
comics as well. So who's to say what it
yeah.
ended
So
up
again,
actually
I'm like
looking
I'm
like?
probably being like super super picky. Um,
And I
but I
really
mean that
liked it.
also came up in with the all of the arrows aimed at him.
Yeah.
I will also say that the use of like the color background blocking and how they coincide with the rest of the page and the page next to it was also an issue I had with Hellboy.
Yep.
So
I remember that.
I think that's just a personal, probably dated opinion.
I
So
mean,
yeah,
I think it's reasonable though.
I did really like this dream sequence that he had,
I did too.
but I mostly like the dream sequence because it was in a different time period.
Yeah.
um, and I did like the use of color, and I felt like the warm tones for the color very much separated it from the rest of the issue and the collection overall.
For sure. For sure.
So that was interesting. I also thought it was interesting, that he saw himself dying with the
Yeah,
arrows.
but not being dead.
That's
Just his
true.
soul died. And yeah, I think
And it took him a really long time to realize she was the Yukio was
uh-huh.
the bad guy.
It did. It did. This is a toxic relationship, everyone. This is not the kind of relationship that you should be in.
Like Harley Quinn and
Joker?
Joker.
Yep. I'm a much bigger fan of the current Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy.
Yeah. I need to watch that cartoon.
Yeah, I do too.
It looks awesome. But yeah.
Gosh, and this just made me so sad.
Yeah, I liked that. I liked his character, and it was really sad to see him die. And he got such a bad death.
Yeah.
Like it was such a one-off. Like,
It's like,
oh, okay, I accidentally killed him.
yeah, and it's like, again, because it's like the way Wolverine describes him is like he's this really, really high caliber secret agent.
And good friend with like an extensive background, and you don't
Yeah,
get to experience any of those through a
and then just
flashback, even through dialogue. The only thing happens is that one line being like, "My oldest friend,"
yep,
and I left the agency a while ago or whatever.
right.
So yeah, yeah.
Oh no, this is the only time he's ever appeared in anything.
What? Oh man, that's okay. I mean, as comics go, maybe someone will be like, "Yo, I liked this one character. Let's make an entire runoff just about Wolverine's time with him." I
Yeah,
could totally see that happening,
I could
even
too.
if it's 10 years from now.
Mm. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. First
Hi,
appearance,
Hank.
Wolverine 1, September 1982. Last appearance, Wolverine 3, November 1982. Like, are you, what?
Yeah. Hi, Hank.
Jerk.
Come here.
Let's say, okay, so in the Marvel anime, he has an appearance as well. Anyways, but yeah, so yeah, characters I'd like to know more about, but won't get to learn more about now.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay,
well.
my dog is like staring me down, but he's not coming over. Okay. Anyway, do you want to get to your rating for story?
I think it is time for rating. Now, as I said, I did really, really, really enjoy the story.
That was
Um,
a weird noise.
um,
Yeah, you sound like my friendly Martian when he's chewing the bubble gum and he's transforming into a different alien. Someone listening will totally know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Um, story art overall. So story. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good show of Wolverine in the Japanese culture, albeit a little stereotypical. Um, I enjoyed the character growth. I thought it ticked all the boxes. That being said, like I was saying, I'm sure there are slightly more gripping stories and things like. Well, no, I take that back. Story wise, I think this one. I think this one is tops. I think if I were to give it anything like it would be the art, and that's just because I like how much, like Anna was saying, um, how much people take a lot more risks in more modern comic book art, and I don't think there was a lot of risk taken here. Um,
Because
it,
working in comics was the risk on its own.
exactly.
Oh.
um, but the story itself, I thought was awesome. I thought it had really good growth development, and just like a little bit of backstory here and there, and kind of ended with a solid like, oh, so that's where that's gonna go. But also like I know from reading all of the X-Men comics that I've read, Mariko's not around long. So what happens? So enough to keep me interested in what happens in the story from here, as well. So I think I would actually give the story here. Um, Honestly, I think I would give story a 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel okay. So my score, I don't necessarily, I mean, I do slightly disagree, but not, um, and it's mostly because I didn't necessarily think that this was a bad story. I thought that it developed the characters well. I thought that it established a fun backstory for Wolverine. I don't necessarily think that it was such a gripping story that kept me excitedly reading and passionately reading on. Um,
I think so. And
yeah.
I'm just going to point this out. I do think because you are, I feel like art more makes or breaks a comic book for you than it does for me.
Okay. I mean, probably.
I mean, I think that plays. I think that plays into your potential less love of the story, but
Well, it was that I didn't resonate with the Yukio character. So, I mean, she was in it a lot longer than I desired because I didn't feel like she was really adding anything other than conflict that Wolverine wasn't even noticing. Then she really only inserted the conflict in that one or two moments and then was just there as a random love, like, rebound type of a character.
mm,
So it was like I said, it was very slice of life, in how I felt like the story pacing went. It was well done in the sense where like I wasn't tired of it, but I also wasn't super passionate about reading it. Like there didn't seem like there was an urgency to see what happens next for me personally. Um, I do think that it's an interesting backstory. I think that it humanizes Wolverine, who oftentimes
it
kind of gets
seemed
the short ends of the stick, wanting to be a hero and being kind of given the powers that he has. So that's why I was more so leaning toward and going from this story into a next story in terms of recommending it to somebody who hasn't read comics before. I couldn't advise anybody else like where to go from here other than just continuing on this particular run. Otherwise, they'd be very confused as to what happens to her, considering you don't see her in the newest runs as much. So for that, I would give it a 7 because it's well done.
okay. Still, I mean, that is still a good score.
I know, but you gave it a 9, and I feel really bad. Because I don't think it was a bad story. The reasons that I docked it off were the reasons I gave.
It was a different kind of story than what you usually get in a superhero comic too. Like
Hmm.
this was taking a hero um, that I feel actually fits in like the samurai kind of world really well, um, and putting him against like a group of like when you think samurai and things like that, you do really think of these highly disciplined, honorable warriors, and you
Like
stick
where fighting is an art.
exactly, and you stick Wolverine into that, and the fact that his one of his mutations are the spiky spikes, um, are the Wolverine claws. I just feel like it pairs with that kind of story so well, and doesn't like yeah, he's still a hero, he still has superpowers, but he's still being put against normal people who are close to being considered his equal.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a really, really cool way to tell a Wolverine story, and I like it for being different like that. I think like a really good example would be, like they do like the Elseworlds Batman comics, and there's like Samurai Batman, or is it Samurai Batman or Batman Ninja, or, like that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, that's cool. They do the same kind of thing, but really all they're doing is turning the world into that of like a samurai world. Here,
Instead of, yeah.
they're not changing the world, they're not changing the story, they're putting the character in this other world, but he still fits in it.
Hmm. I will also say like two more things about the story. Um, Even just the very, very beginning intro where he talks about going up against the bear.
Uh-huh.
It shows the conflict that the character faces with his mutation and his desire to be the good guy, which is a great through line that he goes through with the rest of the issues.
Hmm.
I will also say though, like another neg, and for me, is they focused too much on the Yukio character while Wolverine was getting like drunk and kind of devolving
Hmm.
instead of actually focusing on him devolving when it focuses on humanizing the character throughout and like his struggles, but then when he's actually emotionally struggling, they're not showcasing it as the main point.
Fair. I think the
Uh,
point of Yukio was to prove that he was going to more animalistic urges, because like there wasn't really like when you look at Mariko and Yukio, it's like the difference between romance and lust, and that's where
mhm.
it's human versus animal. So I think
Yeah.
that parody is more like I think it was still making that point really, really well. In my opinion, like I completely understand your opinion of it as well. I feel like they focused they used Yukio as the point of, you know, this is rock
Downfall
bottom
type of thing. Yeah.
Wolverine. Yeah. But yeah, I don't disagree. Like I think showing more what he's thinking through it would have been good as well.
Yeah. Now for the art.
Let's get to the art.
All right. So, I mean,
We've said quite a bit about the art.
we have said quite a bit about the art. I don't think I can really add more to what we have said.
Uh-huh.
Just recapping what we've said, it being much more suggestive in the gore, making it a little bit more appealing, and helps the character that they're taking shape with how they're portraying Wolverine in this volume was well done. The shading was really well done. The lighting, something that I really enjoyed for reference material from like things that I have learned that I need to work harder on. And the style being from when it was is exactly what you expect. I don't have anything that was super bad to say about it. I don't have anything that was absolutely amazing to say about it. So for me, it was pretty like vanilla as a 7.
Okay. You're giving it a 7 for art as well?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. I think that's honestly, I think that is a really good way of describing this book. For me, the art was pretty vanilla. It's exactly what I would expect from Frank Miller, and what I would expect from this time period.
and I mean, maybe I should compare it more to like the Titans comic that we read.
Mm-hmm. I think that's
a
fair comparison, honestly.
And in that comparison, I like this art more.
I agree.
This
100%.
art is much more clear.
Mm-hmm. And they use the art to better tell the story in this one than I think they did in the Titans.
Yeah, and they utilize color better.
Yeah.
You can see everything much crisper. So I mean, I don't remember what I scored art from Titans, but overall, just know that I do think that this was better done.
Yeah. I can tell you. I think so. For me, I think a big thing. I would also give it about a 7. I think there are pages and parts of it that I would give like a 10. Especially like the last scene with Shingen and Mariko. I think that scene to me was like a 10 out of 10. I loved literally everything about it. But so art, you actually gave Teen Titans a 7 as well.
Okay, I'm giving this one an 8.
Okay, yeah, I gave Teen Titans.
I was nervous.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's completely reasonable. And actually, by that, if I were to say that this art was better than Teen Titans, I should also grade this a 9 because I gave Teen Titans an 8.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Might have to watch that again to see why I did that. I'm actually going to stick with my score of. I'll bump it up to an 8 as well. Just because I like I said, there are scenes in this book that are a 10 out of 10. And I don't think there's a single thing in here that I would grade below a 7 personally. And again, this is where we'll get into my overall score. Because I truly believe again that the art became super impactful when the story needed the art to be really impactful. And the use of lighting throughout was awesome, and again, like just the overall mood of the story I really liked. So I am going to give the story overall, or the book overall, a 9 out of 10.
Again, I feel like really bad. So I did bump up my grade for the art to an 8.
Yeah.
In my overall, I was going to keep it the same, and my overall is going to be a 7.
Okay.
And again, it's not necessarily because I think that anything of it is bad.
Right.
I just felt like you got what you got. and it was well done for the time. It was well done for the character, but I mean, it was just not necessarily like my cup of tea. And even if I recommend it to somebody, I won't be able to.
To give further recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Which might change, as we continue this podcast and
Exactly.
show.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure we will read more Wolverine. This definitely I'm interested enough to try to read more Wolverine. You know.
Yeah. All
Um,
right. Next week is my pick
it is.
for DC, and I remember what it is. It was Green Lantern Earth 1, Volume 1.
Yep. I'm actually really excited. So we did 2 heroes that we have not read anything of yet on the
It's
series.
like, I've read Green Lantern.
Yeah, I've read Green
What are you
Lantern
talking
too,
about?
but we haven't done anything Green Lantern, and we haven't done anything Wolverine.
Right. And I did try to pick, like the reason I had us read Green Martian
Green Martian.
or Green Martian Manhunter. Wow, he is green. Martian Manhunter. My last DC pick was because of me wanting to read the Earth one together. So I have not read the Earth one, Green Lantern. I've only ever read Batman, Earth one.
Well, then this will be exciting. A risky
Yeah,
pick
watch
for
it be
Anna once
another bad
again.
one. I'm so
um,
sorry, world.
but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Anna, where can people find you on the interwebs?
On the Instagram, I have 2 accounts, one art account and one personal account, which the one personal account is probably more Hank related, my doggy, which is Anna_Riddick. And then I have my art account, which is A_Riddick_designs.
Absolutely.
And if anyone wants to try to get me to go on Twitter, I have a Twitter that's A_Riddick Designs with no underscore.
Very good.
How about you, Ben?
You can find me everywhere on the internet. It's Ben Pai, ITSBENPAI. That's Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube. And then I do also have an art Instagram that I have not posted to recently.
But you should, because those beautiful pictures of you and Lee and Aylin are.
I wasn't super impressed with them until like the day after I took them. Then I looked back
No,
at
I
them
really
and I'm
love
like,
them.
oh, okay, these are actually pretty okay. And that's Ben Pai photography, Ben Pai photo, BENPAI photo.
We
So
do
yeah.
have a Sibling Rival-Read Instagram account as well
Oh God,
that you
I
should
keep
try to hit
forgetting
up.
that. Really, all
I
of
know
the
I
Sibling
haven't
Rival-Read?
posted to it because
We
we haven't done
anything.
it, and I was really busy working on my portfolio stuff.
Yep. So yeah, everything Sibling Rival-Read related, go to www.itsbenpai.com/comic book club. I'll make sure to have all of those links updated by the time this airs. We're recording this the day before it airs, so by tomorrow. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to keep those poll lists bright and full. And until next week, Shalom-Aste.
Mistake. Ah.
Ah.